Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com. For most of the American public, draft horses are Clydesdales, Belgians, Shires, or Percherons. These breeds date back to their origins as medieval war horses. One of the lesser-known American draft horse breeds is the Suffolk horse, which was bred in eastern England to work on the farm. We spent time with Rodney and Mary Margaret Read of Ledbetter, Texas, and home to Read Suffolks as well as the American Suffolk Horse Association office.
My dad went to Waverly, Iowa in 1974 in the spring sale. And there was a mare named Dolly and a daughter named Bonnie. And they came from Fred Rudd out of Nebraska. And Dad is not one to spend a lot of money, so I never, to this day, still don't know how much he paid for that horse and that foal. But I know it had to go cheap, otherwise he'd have never bought it. And he got it home, and well, after the horse sold at the sale barn, on the way back to the stall, the guy that was selling it told him that he didn't buy it, and he says, "Yes, I did." And he said, "No, you didn't." And so he went to the front office, and the front office says, "Yes, you did buy it, and he won't get his money until you get the papers." And it took 6 months to 9 months before my dad got the papers. Well, between the time my dad bought the horse and the foal, the filly had died from, back then we called it shipping fever, but who knows what it was. Anyway, the foal died, and so that foal was actually dead before the horse got registered because he hadn't registered the foal, but he had the registered mare. So that's, being Dad was in the brown Swiss dairy cows and Holsteins, but mostly brown Swiss, he's getting in the registered stock. I was in Plattsburgh, New York, so we wrote to the association after we found out he bought this Suffolk mare, because I knew that he had just breed that Suffolk registered mare to just anything, just to have a foal, and I understood that. So we got a letter from the Suffolk Association in Des Moines, Iowa, and they gave us a list of 5 names. One guy in Nebraska, one guy in Missouri, one guy in Illinois, one in Pennsylvania, and one in New York. So, well, I was in Plattsburgh, New York, so we seen the one in Pennsylvania and the one in New York. And we ended up buying, we found other contacts through those, and we ended up buying a stud colt from the one in New York, Red Creek, New York. And so I had a truck but no trailer. So she worked at the hospital downtown, and so she asked around, and one of the girls had a trailer, so I borrowed a trailer from her, loaded up the horse, and took the horse all the way from New York to Minnesota. And then Waylon Harcroft found out that my dad was getting this, that I was bringing this stud, so he came down. He wanted to see the stud. He had some Suffolk mares. He loaned Dad one of his mares so Dad would have a team to drive, and in exchange we bred his mares. And then of course Paul Harcroft was kind of getting into it. He was a dairy farmer just like my dad was, and so
the son of Waylon.
Yeah, son of Waylon Harcroft. And so it would just worked out for everybody. And that was, I had no intentions other than helping my father raise registered stock. I had no intention of getting into it. That was not it was not, as I used to tell a lot of people, the Suffolk chose me, I didn't choose it. It was just something that happened, and it evolved over time.
Hi, I'm Joe Mishka of Rural Heritage Magazine. I'm on location of one of the many events we cover that celebrates our rural heritage. If you enjoy our show, check out our magazine, where you'll learn more about the people that blend the past with what works today. You can save almost 20% off the newsstand price by subscribing at ruralheritage.com or chat with us at 877-647-2452. That's toll-free, 877-647-2452.
After I moved back to Texas then, my brother-in-law was looking at some horses out in Utah, and he decided not to buy them. And so we were home in Minnesota, and he showed the pictures and that, and yeah, so we got back to Texas. We got more thinking about it. Well, we got a stallion, and Dad's willing to let me have keep the horses with him, and so we ended up buying 2 mares out of Utah, and so we drove out there with 2 trucks.
These are Suffolk mares?
Suffolk mares,
okay.
Registered.
Okay.
Ironside. And Ironside Millie and Ironside Missy, and Richard McFarland was the person that was selling them. And we got out. That was before they had crew cabs. In that, and so her folks wanted to go, so they drove their truck and we drove our truck, and got out there, borrowed a trailer from somebody because I still didn't have a trailer. And we got out there, did a little sightseeing on the way out there, and picked up them. Went out there, and then he had brought them in and walked around a big catwalk and on there and looked down into that big round pen that they have out west. And I wasn't sure I wanted to really spend the money on those, and it was I think it was $1,000 a piece, which was still in the service back in the 70s, 80s. That's still a lot of money. And so I told him I'd have to think about it. And overnight, I said, we drove this far, hauled a trailer this far. It's kind of stupid to go home empty-handed. So we ended up buying the 2 mares. But the first 2 mares that I bought are in their 7th or 8th generation of offsprings, and there's offsprings from both of those mares, and including the stallion I started with, that have offspring that were born in 2017. So I'm very proud of the fact that the bloodline has not died out. It might not be as many as you'd like to have, but it's better than none. So it's been an interesting ride so far. The Amish like them because they use them for farming and everything else. Other people use them for riding. Believe it or not, Austin Police Department has 2 Suffolks that were born and raised on this place. I didn't sell them to them. I sold them to somebody else. He bought them, then he trained them and broke them, and then someone else bought them, and that person sold them to Austin, to the police department. They use them for crowd control and down on 6th Street. So they're very versatile, and there's not the first Suffolks to ever be used, because there was a person in California that had a Suffolk, and there was no proof that it was a Suffolk, but every indication, every picture I ever looked at, it looked to be a Suffolk. But without registrations, you really can't prove things. And in order to take credit for things, you really need proof. And so I think they're very versatile. They do a lot of trail rides and wagon rides and stuff, and they still plow with them, log with them, farm with them.
This was my great-grandfather's farm, and my grandfather bought out all his siblings. And then there was originally 500 acres, and they sold the 200 acres behind us here. And then the rest of the farm, one of his siblings cotton farmed it for years. And so anyway, that's it. My dad and his brother split the place when my grandmother died, because she eventually inherited it. And then they left it to me. My parents left it to me. Right. This house sat in LaGrange, and my dad was born in this house. And we moved it out here because my folks knew we were going to settle here with the horses. And so they moved it out here, and we refurbished it and made it a little bigger and put a 2nd story on it, because there was 2 families going to live here. And so then that's how we got here. When he retired, we moved in, and we made a bargain that we would take care of them. So, and we did.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's pretty special, living in a house that your dad was born in.
And he died here as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty historic for us.
And becoming more and more rare over time.
Yes.
That kind of connection.
Yes.
And that kind of multi-generational care.
Yes. Yes. So
when did you become secretary of the association?
I believe it was 1976, and my first meeting, and that was in absentia.
Wait, you were elected to the position in absentia? You weren't at the meeting?
I was not at the meeting.
So was this a real hard position to win? Did you have to scratch and claw to become secretary? Were there a lot of others?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I had quit working by choice and to start a family. And then they were looking for a secretary. And one of the big priorities at that time was to be able to spell. And they had a couple of candidates in mind, but I was the only one that seemed qualified.
Who nominated you?
I believe it was Paul Hartkoff.
Okay. It wasn't your husband then?
No. And my father-in-law seconded it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But Bill Hart, Bob Simmons, they were all on the board at the time. And so anyway, that was how I got, I volunteered.
Okay.
And they accepted, so.
What were the association registration records like? Can you describe what you inherited?
I inherited 2 boxes of files, and then I inherited a folder that said how to do it. It was empty. Somebody had good intentions. And then I inherited a double width 4x6 file card cabinet, and about 12 by 18. And on one side were registrations on white cards, and on the other side were pink and blue cards for transfers, mares and stallions. Years later, I inherited boxes and boxes and boxes of old letters, old stud books. We have been gifted another stud book, the 1881 stud book from England. And, we registered maybe 30 horses a year. So it was not real busy at that time. And I worked for nothing. I volunteered. And
prior to this, you were working in the healthcare industry?
I was.
A nurse?
I was supervisor in a hospital laboratory.
Oh, okay. All right. So you weren't unaccustomed to organization and paperwork and filing and keeping immaculate records?
Right. I mean, that's just inbred in me. I'm a type A.
Okay.
Ask Rodney. So.
This job?
40 years.
How long until you quit?
I don't know.
Do you have to find a successor?
Yes. We have to find one that the board approves of, and so.
What's it like being a secretary?
It's more than a job. I did it for the first 20 years just out of the love for the Suffolk. You do the work and you see the papers come across and you see, we don't have pictures, but you see the pedigrees and you just think, oh, well, this needs to get done. And if I don't get it done in my 3 days that I work 3 days a week, and I never get everything done in 3 days. And so I'll work evenings or I'll work Saturdays just to get it done, and so that they don't have to wait on their papers.
Do you see yourself as kind of a caretaker of something, a chronicler of history?
I do. And I think, I've done it for so many years that it's just part of me.
When you see these papers, you're looking at more than just a registration. You're looking at people and farms and horses.
Right, and people that I've known. Some of them I've known for years. And I see people leave the breed, and then I hear that he's passed away, and I thought, oh, he was such a good breeder, and they did so much for the association, and will we ever get somebody to replace him or her? And, I just hope that people keep breeding.
If someone watches the show and they want to get into horses and they like the Suffolk breed, or they're already into horses and they want to switch over maybe, or learn more about it, should they contact your office?
Yes, and we also have a website. It's www.suffolkpunch.com, and there is contact information. There's a list of breeders on there. There's a list of horses for sale on there. There's photographs. There's a membership application. Most applications that you would need are on the website. And of course, they can always write me. Oh, and for people that don't want to be members, or people that don't use the internet, we also have a hard copy stud book that they can purchase. And the most recent one was in 2012.
Okay.
And it covers a 5-year period.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Stacy Lynn. Today I'm making coconut cream pie. You are gonna love it.
Stacy Lynn, savor the good life.
One of the reasons I love it is because it's custard base, and you can make 3 different pies, if not more than that, out of this base. You can make a lot of savory dishes along with my second favorite, or it may be my first favorite, chocolate cream pie, and you can make banana pudding, which is my men's favorite in the household. So here we go. I already have sugar and a little bit of cornstarch in my pot, and I do not have the heat on yet. The main ingredient in this dish is eggs. The next is cream. So it's like a perfect farm dish. Anybody who has cows and chickens is gonna love this. Okay, so that's 4 egg yolks right there, and then milk. So here we go. So if you have cows that you milk every day, or goats, I guess it'd be good with goat's milk. I mean, I'd give it a try. I think that'd be pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna get that good and mixed, and then I'm gonna slowly pour it into my sugar and my cornstarch mixture. Now, really what I'm making is a pastry cream, because anytime you add flour or cornstarch to thicken eggs, it's really a pastry, it's a pastry cream, okay? A true custard is only made with eggs. It's only thickened by eggs, but eggs can curdle, and by putting the cornstarch in or flour in, you're not gonna have to worry about your eggs curdling. Now I'm gonna turn the heat on to high heat for just a few minutes, and then I'm gonna turn it down to medium. Now you cannot leave this. You need to stay here with it, and you need to stir it. And it's gonna take about 8 minutes for this to thicken up and get to where I'm happy with it. There's really nothing like a fresh egg. You're gonna know that it's fresh when the yolk is really, really bright yellow. And it's beautiful. It's a deep bright yellow. It's not only pretty to look at, but the flavor is really, really great. This is beginning to thicken up, and it is looking marvelous. This looks so beautiful. Now I'm gonna put the butter right in here, one at a time, and I'm gonna let it melt, each one in between. This is gonna make this have a texture that is silky and velvety. It's gonna be beautiful. Okay, so back to my chicken story. The chickens have been able to forage and eat lots of crickets and bugs from the garden. We'll let them even go in our garden once our garden is kind of a little bit bigger and they're not gonna get the tender leaves. And they will eat all of those bugs, and it just makes that yolk really, really rich. Okay, so if you don't keep chickens, it's something that you might want to think about doing. And even neighborhoods are getting a lot more lenient about letting people keep chickens in the yard as long as they are not roosters, and they're not, because people say that chickens just crow when they see the light, but those things, I'm gonna tell you what, they crow all night long. All right. We have one last piece of butter going in, and then our custard is gonna be just about right. Now don't get it too thick as you want it as far as for a pie, because it will thicken up just a little bit in the refrigerator. Almost there. Okay, I'm gonna add vanilla and a pinch of salt. Now with the egg whites, you can make a meringue. Today it is quite rainy here in Alabama, so I'm not gonna make a meringue because it's just gonna be sticky, and I don't want that. And I really love a whipped cream topping, and that's just powdered sugar with whipped cream, a little bit of vanilla, and a little pinch of salt. Salt always makes everything better, to me. Let me see if I want that any thicker. I might let it go for another minute. So this right here is a little bit more like banana pudding texture or a trifle texture. And you can make this for a trifle too. I forgot all about that, but you can do angel food cake, put this as a layer and then berries on top of that and keep layering it up and then put your whipped cream on the top. Okay, so I need to get it just a tad thicker so that when you cut those slices, it's just gonna be perfect. Okay, it's getting there. I've turned off the heat and now I'm gonna add a little bit, about 2 cups of coconut. I'm gonna save some to put on the top to let everybody know that it's actually a coconut pie. Sometimes you don't know and cut into it and you think it's coconut and it's chocolate. Okay, which coconut on the top of chocolate pie would be really good too. All right, so I'm gonna just stir it up. And then you have to put this in the refrigerator with a little bit of plastic wrap over the top. So I just usually just leave it here, let it cool. Once it cools down, I'll put a piece of plastic wrap over it, touching it so that it doesn't leave a film on the top. And I have some that just came out of the refrigerator. And I have a pie shell here. You can make your own homemade crust or you can get a pre-made crust. Make a triple batch, do 3 crusts, and then change each of them up. And then for Sunday dinner, you have a chocolate custard pie, a coconut pie, and a banana pudding. Okay, so here it is, and you see how much it thickens up, and it's just beautiful, and my mouth is already watering for this. I could eat the entire pie. This looks so good. So I'm gonna make sure that I just smush it in there like that, get it all the way around all the corners. And then I'm gonna put my whipped cream, confectioner's sugar, cream, whip, 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 whip. My daughter's the best at whipping this cream. And then a little bit of vanilla. You can put maple syrup. You can do all kinds of stuff to make your cream taste different. Okay, so I'm gonna put that up there. I really like to make mine almost as much as the coconut. Okay, all right. I'm going higher and higher and higher. Love whipped cream. I could just eat this plain. Actually, I do. Okay, so put it up here. Then I'm gonna sprinkle it with a little bit of coconut. Today I didn't. Normally I would toast this in an oven for about 10 minutes. Make sure that you shake it around. It may not even take that long depending on your oven. But put the coconut on there and it is gonna be delicious. So I am super excited about that. Now, I'm gonna cut into it and let you see how gorgeous this is. This is my favorite pie cutting utensil. I'm not sure where this thing came from, but it's great because it can scoop the pie up at the end. Now we're gonna see if it works this time. You never know. All right, so here we go. So far, so good. The first slice, just like the first pancake, is always the mess up, but we're gonna see. Okay, here we go. How's that looking? Does that look good to y'all? Is it good? Okay, here we go. I'll put it down. Okay, really and truly, I can't resist. So I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna have to take a bite of this. All right. That's good. I'm Stacy Lynn. Thanks for watching.
Stacy Lynn.
This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of back-to-the-land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.